people would like to ask some questions or make some comments, or maybe ask some questions about the creativity that goes into this. I don't know that one can explain that, but if anyone would like to, we have a few minutes.
I have a question. This is my first poetry reading.
Ever?
Ever.
Wow.
Good. And I have a question about what inspires you to create what you've created with words. I'm an artist, I paint. I know how to create that way, but with words, what inspires you?
A painter here what's your name?
Jean.
Jean would like to know what inspires people to create poetry with words, since she does it with paints.
For me?
I
think you should speak at the mic.
Hi, buddy.
I live language. I breathe it, I feel it, I see the world almost first in letters and sounds. So what inspires me is it's the same as breathing. Writing is the same as breathing. But on a more specific level, I could be, on a bus in a cafe or whatever, and hear a snippet of conversation, or I'll be reading something, whether it be an advertisement or a theoretical piece of, a culture, and whatever. I'll lock on to a word, a phrase, a sound. I'll roll it over in my mouth. I guess like if somebody was on acid, but like for real, like in normal life. Like in just like in every day you see that it, and you just and feeling the newness and the sensuality of the word totally defamiliarized or decontextualized from its dictionary meaning is very exciting. So sometimes that really inspires me.
Great, thank you.
I get a lot of my inspiration sometimes from dreams or looking out the window. It's very sporadic. I never know when it comes. It could come at 3 o'clock in the morning. It could be any time during the day. I could just wake up during the night and something happens from nowhere. And a lot of things do come from dreams. And I always carry a paddling. When I write haiku, a lot of it happens on the subway. I look out the window, watch, or I walk in the street, something I see. Bingo, I have to take out my pad, or sometimes I take out my iPhone and I just snap it, and I go back to it later and I write my haiku there. And recently, like some of my poems I read earlier today about from music. I listen to a lot of old music on YouTube. I get a lot of inspiration from that, and that's how I am starting to write poems from YouTube now. Thank you.
You mentioned YouTube, and I would tell you all that this will be on YouTube. As soon as it gets posted, you might really want to listen.
Technology willing.
Yes, technology willing. Barry, you have a question?
I just want to ask you, all the different names and personalities that you must have gone through 100 at least. I'm just curious, what is inspiring you to do that, and what was your process for kind of like collecting and naming and relating all of these different people together?
They're all in my head. I live with them all the time. All these voices, all these people, all these poets, all these thinkers, all these philosophers and artists. I live with them. I have my, ever since I was young, I've been writing and reading poetry and reading about art and philosophy, and have my PhD now. I teach media theory and feminist theory. So I'm reading this stuff all the time, and so they're all like sort of conversing together, and this whole become this intertextual conversation. And so thinking about contemporary media and about and thinking how they would talk to each other had they been alive, or what they might have been doing or listening to with the puns of whatever they're connected to.
Okay, another question? Doris?
What distinguishes a prose, free verse, and poetry?
She would like to know what distinguishes prose, free verse, and poetry. any of you poets give an answer to that? Or non-poets who not do that?
I'll answer all the questions. Please, anybody wants to answer, but I would say that really, nowadays, there's really no distinction. It used to have very, strict boundaries and borders and we're defined into genres, but nowadays, there's a celebration of crossing borders and boundaries and it really has to do with the texture of language. And because there's a lot of poetry that's very narrative, there's a lot of narrative, story that's highly poetic. And it's really an arbitrary distinction nowadays that I think these old school kind of compartmentalizations don't exist.
Are there any guidelines of boundaries and stuff that?
Well, I think increasingly not, and it's funny that you mentioned this because of my new Talon book of poetry, which, moves between a number of different genres. They made, they've got a new thing that they put poems in big letters on the book title, so people just at a bookstore who might not recognize my name or anything would know that it was poetry. And I was like, I was really a little taken aback. But the fact is they still, there's a certain amount of people that want to know, want to still live within these definitions. But, but some narrative is so like rejoice or how can we say that that's just a novel, right? Or, so there's so many places of intersection. And, it's so long to conversation.
Yes. Hi. Oh, you're fielding this. I forgot. I'm not in my classroom.
I guess I could say that there's a musical component and a poet has an ear, as well as a third eye. You agree?
And a
I
tongue.
agree.
And a tongue. Yes.
I have a question for the followers of General Semantics. I thought that this would be a discussion of General Semantics and poetry tonight. I wanted to ask, does Count Gordievsky have any particular insights into poetry, into literature, to General Semantics, and they contribute anything fresh into our understanding of poetry? And I can glance and read.
What do you think, Martin?
I'll defer to you.
And I would say that Korzybski it teaches us to pause, and maybe poetry does too.
Simple.
Well, I think that, and this actually goes to an earlier question as well, is that, I find that General Semantics provides me with some ideas about what to write about, what to think about as far as writing about language, writing about symbols and how we react to them, and it also makes you think about levels of abstraction. And one of the key concepts in General Semantics is a consciousness of abstracting, that as we move from what's out there to our own perceptions, to the names we give to things, and then to the categories we put things into, we become more and more distanced from what's out there. And this actually speaks to Doris's point as well, because in that sense, poetry and prose are very abstract terms. They're categories, and they are, as Wendell Johnson, one of Korzybski's followers, explained, when we abstract and we leave out details, right? I mean, a given piece, one of your pieces, is what it is. It's not poetry, it's not prose, it is its own individual, unique kind of composition. And you put it into a category, and for many people that's comforting. You say, that's a poem.
Yeah.
But just like, you see a bit of abstract art or, just some incomprehensible painting in the museum, and you look at what it says, you say, that's what it is. But, it's to understand that things are to be experienced in their own right. And I think that, the way we look at it in terms of general semantics is that poetry is a way to think about the process of abstracting, and in some ways it gives us, I think one of the things that Korzybski left out was that it's not just a vertical, but there's also a horizontal element. So there are different ways to abstract reality. He hinted at that in the quote that Marty used about poetry giving us things that science can't give us, that there are different ways of understanding our reality, our environment, and give us sort of different selections out of that. But it certainly does help to make us conscious of the abstract and the concrete. I think a lot of poetry brings us back to the concrete, but if we do it in a kind of, with general semantics in mind, we also want to make people aware of what we're doing, aware of our process of perception, of how we see the world, how one person's way of seeing the world differs from another person's way of seeing the world. And poetry really is very powerful in that, in putting you into someone else's head and trying to get you to experience someone else's sense perceptions. And then also in trying to learn, trying to distance us. And the problem with language, like as McLuhan said about media, that it becomes an invisible environment. It fades into the background. We're not conscious of it. We just talk and use words without thinking about it. Poetry says stop. Think about each word, the shape, the texture, the sound, the history, the etymology of it. Think about how they work together. Be conscious of your words. Everything we do nowadays, everything is so much about speed. Go fast, fast, fast. Poetry is about slowing down, and one of the key ideas in general semantics is just delay your reactions. Don't react right away. Think, right? Not reflex, but reflection. And I think that's what poetry does. I don't know if I answered your question or if I deflected it, but hopefully one way or another I was successful with that.
We always say in general semantics, the map is not the territory. Well, I think poetry really redefines the territory in a way that makes that more obvious. And so that's a connection that I see. I hope that helps. Are there any more questions? Barry?
This is a very broad question. Just anybody, how would you say, what is the difference between a word and an image, and at the same time, how do they complement each other?
With the brain in between the word and the image.
I don't know if I'm the best one to answer this question, but I mean, what is the difference? I mean, between an actual, it depends if you're talking about a spoken word, the sound of the word, but I mean, I think what I presented here tonight, because a lot of what was, much of what was screened, the image of those words were actually spoken. So you heard, the differential between and the conflictual sort of nexus that might have arisen through both the sound and the visuality of it, and the fact, and sort of the brokenness and conflict in the articulation, and yet similarly the brokenness and the conflagration of otherness in the presentation. So I particularly am interested in presenting and featuring and celebrating both the physicality and materiality of language itself, and also the orality and the texture of it as an oral thing, or thing, rather. And so they're two separate entities that complement and relate to each other.
Okay, the thing that I've been confused about for a long time, a word is a sound, but if you didn't know what the image was, you would have no idea what you were talking about. When you read, if you didn't have a trail of images, you'd have no idea what you were talking about. So you have to go back to the image of the picture to create meaning out of the words there's always like a dance.
Exactly.
But I'm just curious, as a poet, you're
Yeah.
doing this instinctively all the time.
No, I love
What the
it.
dance between the image and the word.
Exactly.
I-
And
what
that's,
does-
you
what
know,
does that
that's
mean to
exactly,
you?
you just hit it right on, because like I love, because it's an arbitrary connection. I mean, it's not like a God-given, like, you know, that word, that English letters look like this. I mean, look at all the languages, Hebrew, like everybody has their own letters and their own sounds and their own connections. So let's just talk about English. That is exactly the place that is so very interesting, that we make these, you know, as Lance was saying earlier, like we go through life without thinking that we connect these things, we connect the unconnectable as if like if they were real or God-given or, you know, universal truths, but rather it's exposing the nakedness and the openness and the you know, the multifaceted openness of these like two separate realities, and how they connect and how they don't connect and how we make them connect.
I would add that anybody who's literate thinks in linear terms, and poetry breaks that down and leaves that space. That's a simpler way of saying it.
Yeah, I'll just add that, I think you're mistaken in saying that, words stand for images, or, I mean, what image does the word the or yeah, bring to mind? It, you, well, you know, that's an action, but, what image is specific to a word like a high-level abstraction like love? We understand that images represent a separate kind of symbol system or form of signification. Images are based on resemblance to some kind of sense perception, whereas words are arbitrary and only make meaning by convention, as we say, by agreement. For that reason, images are always concrete. Words can be very abstract. And in general semantics, I mean, we also connect to the work of others, like Suzanne Langer was very important for a lot of us. You know, who pointed out that images don't make statements. You know, you show a picture and it is what it is. It's not till you add a caption, some kind of statement, a title, that you can really say that it says something specific, makes a otherwise by itself it doesn't make a claim, it doesn't make an argument, it can act as evidence, but it takes words to make a statement, to make a clear statement that can then be
It's never clear.
be determined true or false. But that's kind of, you know, gets into, you know, questions of the difference between different kinds of symbol systems. Right? Ultimately, images evoke feeling, and words open us up to other kinds of responses, which include the reflective and the logical kinds of response. Huh?
Also feeling, because
It,
there's things
yeah, it just, words add to that, you know, to feeling is part of it, but words give us something new that we can't get from any other form of symbol or medium. And I do have to say that since it's 9 o'clock, we're turning into pumpkins, very open and ripe, warm pumpkins. So I want to thank Terry Manzella for hosting us tonight. Thank you all for coming. I want to remind you once again that all you have to do is join the Institute of General Semantics, and you can freely come to the October 26th Korzybski dinner and lecture with Diane Ackerman. The 2-day symposium that follows, if you go to the Institute of General Semantics website, there is a call for papers there. And I think, Marty, we would welcome poetry reading as well.
We do.
We've had that
Yes,
as
absolutely.
well, so we'll be happy to include that. So the call is there along with the explanation, and also you can join online. As for the New York Society, our next session will be Wednesday, May 2nd. Topic is TBA, but you know it'll be good, right? Right.
Yeah.
So good night, thank you all.
Thank you.